Welcome back to the RinkMasters podcast. My name is Tyler Kroom. I'm joined with Noah Dreger.
Yeah, hey guys, it's good to be back. I've been off for a little bit. Actually, I think an episode a week or two ago, but then I was off for a while before that, so I'm back again.
Well, it's certainly good to have you back. And before we get into order of business, we got a pretty good announcement that's going to actually be kind of like our Christmas gift to you guys this year. We're dropping another form of content called The Locker Room. And that's going to be more of an Instagram TV and Facebook video exclusive. You're also going to be able to find it on YouTube. So keep your eyes out for that. Also, stay tuned we're going to be talking about World Juniors hockey, specifically Team Canada. Before we get to that, stay tuned because we got an interview with the Director of Media Relations for the Caribou Cougars, Caleb Wilson, right after this. Before we get rolling, World Juniors update. So there's two teams have had some positive testings for COVID-19. So as a result of that, Team Germany and Team Sweden are currently under a quarantine protocol before they get into the bubble. 8 players from the German team have tested positive. They will be out of commission until December 24th, which is the day before the tournament starts. So Germany's kind of set behind the 8 ball here, eh, Mon?
Well, I was going to say for Germany, that's kind of devastating, actually. Like, I mean, yeah, they've had a few weeks now to practice, so it's not like they haven't had any practice as a team. But I don't think this is the first time their camp has been shut down either. Like, I think this team will be seriously rusty, and that's not something that you want going into this World Juniors. So that doesn't bode well for Germany at all. And they've also lost, I think, 2 of their best players. Correct me if I'm wrong. Already, they had to leave camp. So
yeah, they've lost 2 top 6 forwards, and again, like if you're a team like Germany, this is not the situation you want to be having right before the tournament. It's already going to be a tougher tournament than any other year. So
hopefully their coach can have some good moments, like I believe it was Switzerland's head coach in the last few years. So hopefully their coach can come out with a few good quotes to cheer up the German mood in this tournament.
Absolutely. And then as for Team Sweden, they are also under quarantine, but theirs is a little bit less. They actually, as of today, as we're recording December 21st, they will be then cleared, and I believe they'll be able to participate in the extended pre-tourney before the 25th.
Yeah, so we're also going to talk about the Nhl Restart here, give some news on that. So do you want me to go ahead with that, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is taken from the Instagram account Puck Empire, who compiled all the important dates that have been announced for the NHL as of right now. So the training camp for non-playoff teams is supposed to start on December 30th. And then on January 13th is when the NHL season is supposed to begin. The trade deadline is slated to be April 12th. The regular season is supposed to end May 8th. July 21st is supposed to be the expansion draft. July 23rd is supposed to be round 1 of the NHL entry draft. The 24th is supposed to be round 2 to 7 of the entry draft. And July 28th is supposed to be the start of free agency. So lots to look forward to. Oh, and I forgot, January 3rd is when regular training camps are supposed to start. I realized I totally glazed over that. So that's a lot of big dates coming up. And of course, it is a shorter season. So
56 games.
So with that in mind, do you think that teams will approach goaltending differently? Like, I know historically, you could get starters that would play that many games in a season. So what happens with that? Is the schedule going to be condensed really at all? How is that going to work for tandems?
See, it's going to be very interesting. I know the league has said that each team is required to carry 3 goaltenders this year, right, in case of an injury, because they have to have the taxi squad. So it's going to be very fascinating. I was thinking about this yesterday, and one team that kind of came up to mind right away was, well, actually 2, but the first one was Minnesota Wild. So, of course, Stalock's hurt, so he's not going to be able to play. So
is he out for the whole season or just for most of it? I couldn't remember. I saw rumors for both, so I wasn't sure what was the most recent. views on that?
I'm leaning towards the fact that I think he's going to be just not in the season because, they signed Andrew Hammond and apparently they're extremely high on Kakkonen as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that out because they've signed Talbot, who is kind of still looking to establish himself as a starter again. So when we take that into consideration, their goaltending situation could definitely be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But then also, how like we were all just looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs and the goaltending signings they've made. They brought in Dell and they also had brought back Hutchinson, and we're all kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. Like they brought, an NHL backup in to be a third string goalie. So one makes you wonder if they knew that, if Dubas knew that they were going to be quite required or potentially required to carry along 3 goaltenders. And so if for whatever reason Anderson or Campbell goes down, Dell comes in, who is, as we know, a very solid backup for the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, I know what strikes me as interesting about this is that there's still some teams with some very questionable goalie depth.
Yeah.
And there's some teams that you'd expect to run with a tandem, probably like 50-30 games, like somewhere in there in between the right for the balance. But
yeah,
like a team like the Canucks, when they're trying to give Thatcher Demko more reps, and obviously Holtby, I assume, wasn't expecting like a full season. He was expecting to come in as like with the 1A or 1B goaltender. Like it wasn't just going to be a starter and a backup with the Canucks this season. But now with even fewer games, how do you approach that, especially in terms of development? Because again, they're trying to develop Demko into a starter. How many games do you give him in this circumstance?
Well, I still believe it's going to be a 50-50 split. I'm trying to do the math in my head. If there's going to for sure be 56 games, which as it's looking to be confirmed right now, they're each going to play about 28 games. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think both goaltenders are extremely capable, obviously. But at the same time, you got to wonder what's the third string situation going to look like. Louis Domingue is now in Calgary, right? So who's gonna be the third string?
Part of the Vancouver Exodus, apparently.
I guess so. Now we're talking about goalies. How can we not bring up Henrik Lundqvist? So he has revealed this week actually that he has a pretty bad heart condition. He's going to have to sit out for this year. So that is going to be a huge blow for the Washington Capitals, as they've only got Ilya Samsonov now. So you got to wonder, is Craig Anderson in talks with Washington? Because they're going to need someone with experience that can come in on a budget, because the Capitals don't have really much cap space to work with, right? So that was the first name that came to my head, is Craig Anderson going to be that guy that comes and fills that void? And because they got to have 3 goalies again, right? So I don't think they even have a guy that could come up unless they want to give Zach Fucale that opportunity, right? So
which might happen. I mean,
it could happen. I mean, if he's the taxi squad, there's not going to be a lot expected of him. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then actually talking about taxi squads, and considering we really care about development, how will that affect players? Because it's still, from what I've seen, and obviously I follow more NHL accounts, so it won't be as relevant, but the AHL, not entirely sure what's happening with that. But with those taxi squads, obviously they're scratches pretty much, right? Like they're just traveling with the team. They might not be able to play as many games, but which players do you put on that if you're a team, right? Like obviously it's a shorter season. They've already been off for so long. Like, how do you do that balance with your young players to make sure that they are actually developing, right? Like this is the big question this year.
Well, one thing that I kind of saw thrown around, and I think it's a really good idea, because there's a lot of uncertainty with the junior leagues this year, right? So these teams that have drafted, high profile players from teams like the Western Hockey League, the Ontario Hockey League, the Quebec League, you one's got to think, maybe that they're going to be part of those taxi squads, because they're going to get lots of practice time with the team's coaching staff and with the NHL players. This would be an opportunity for them to really just kind of not skip a beat, because the reality is right now, ice time isn't as accessible now, especially here in Canada. There's a lot of other things going on with COVID-19, and it's really going to be interesting to see. I could see a possibility where some of these like top prospects are going to end up being part of the taxi squad for their NHL clubs.
Yeah, for sure. And I was expecting that too. I was just wondering more like, how do the staff on the NHL teams find the balance? Because obviously games are highly valued, which is why lots of them go to the AHL now to get games, especially since the AHL's quality seems to be improving. So it gives them a chance to really test themselves. But if they're not playing games, like what does that mean? Like do you think that hurts development for some top prospects?
I mean, potentially. I also just see it as the fact that I think their development might just get hindered more if they don't really have real access to good coaching and programs this year, right? Like, because the NHL, if you're an NHL team, I mean, if you've got a guy like, Dylan Cousins, if you're Buffalo, you got Dylan Cousins in the pipeline, he's almost ready anyway. But if he can't play for Lethbridge this year and he can't get the ice time necessary to develop, I mean, it's really in your best interest to just keep him with the squad. And I also saw earlier as well that the NHL has moved back there's, like a rookie can play up to 10 games in the regular season before the contract kicks in. That's their kind of trial period before a team can put them back to their junior teams. Well, that's now moved back to 7. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But because at the same time, if the American Hockey League also comes into play, then they might not want to pull all of their American Hockey League players into the taxi squad as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, well, my other thought was that, and you talked about this with Jason Podolin a little bit there, right? Is that when like the media is a massive pressure point for young players. Like you talked about when he went to Toronto, like it was like there's 50 some reporters. It was a media scrum. I think he said it was like he was the prime minister or something like that, if I remember correctly. So, like, do you think with maybe less media, this could be a chance in fewer games, fewer fans? This could be a chance for teams to actually try to give some of their young players more game time with maybe a bit less pressure in those same ways.
Absolutely. I definitely think that could definitely work out in that way, because the reality is with these bubbles, I mean, you're not going to have, like, Toronto is not going to have the 50 plus, reporters in a room ready to talk to whichever player they can get access to. So that I can see that happening as well. I also want to say sorry to Jason, because I mispronounced his name at the beginning of the of our interview on our last episode. It's actually Podolin, not Podolin.
Oh yeah, my bad.
And he actually did, and he did correct me actually before we started recording, and my brain completely farted out. So I'm really sorry about that. So yeah, it is Podolin. It's not Podolin. I'm a bit of an idiot sometimes.
It's okay. Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's really important for player development. And unless we have any other major NHL topics, I was just thinking on the topic of player development in terms of showcase, obviously there's the World Juniors, which is the first look at junior players since March or April. One of those two, I think it is.
It ended in March.
So since March, this is the first time we're going to be seeing lots of those junior players. So Tyler, was there any last NHL subject, or are we good to go into the World Juniors?
Let's transition into the World Juniors. I'm ready to go. I've got some thoughts juiced up in my old noggin here.
Just brace for impact, guys. Prepare yourselves.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about specifically Team Canada. We haven't had access to the every single World Junior team's roster. Plus, we're kind of on a bit of a time crunch, so we're going to just dive into Team Canada. We're super excited. So before this, before we started recording, Noah and I were just kind of going over the roster, and because of course the 05 World Juniors team for Team Canada was probably the best World Juniors team Canada has ever sported.
It's definitely up there, and there's some teams that some people obviously prefer, but this is probably the most widely
absolutely liked. And we also noticed that Chicago Blackhawks head coach Jeremy Colleton was also playing on that team as Brent Seabrook's teammate. So imagine being World Junior teammates, and then now your World Junior teammate, if you're Brent Seabrook, your World Junior teammate is now your head coach.
And he's benching you. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
I think it's just really funny. We got a good chuckle out of that, but just wanted to throw that in there. I think it was a really cool thing that we found, but we also then counted the amount of first-round picks that were on that 05 team. They only had, I think we counted 9.
Just bear in mind, Tyler did lose count after 7, so then I couldn't remember how many we counted after that, but I thought it was only 2. So we're guessing 9. Probably it's right around 9.
Man, ADHD is a pain in the butt, man. I just got to point that out. But
yeah, we still love you, Tyler. We still love you.
So now, so we counted 9, and I was like, it's a little bit deceiving because, you got like Patrice Bergeron there, Shea Weber. Those guys were, selected early in the second round. But I mean, you could very easily say they could have been top 5 draft picks in that draft class, or even a top 10, right? So, but we compare that this year. We have, for the 2021 World Juniors Team Canada lineup, 20 first round picks.
Yeah.
20.
No, we're just going to let that sit for a few seconds. 20.
Like, me and Noah were just trying to kind of look through the other countries that are participating this year, and they don't even come close. Not even Russia, I don't think, comes close to 20.
I think the US is the next closest. I thought they had something like 9.
Yeah, because they got Zegras, Turcotte, Caulfield.
I think it was something like 9. Maybe
Spencer
it was like
Knight.
10. I don't know. But it wasn't nearly as many as Canada.
Even the fact that we double them.
Or something like that. Yeah, it's...
And I know Noah brought up earlier, there was this guy we bumped into on Twitter, and he was trying to, convince us that that the reason why Canada is so good every year is because of quantity, not quality, which is...
And how the US
garbage.
is going to catch us because they focus on quality, not quantity. And Tyler and I, we just couldn't believe it. So here you go. We can't remember your tag. Even if we did, we wouldn't mention your name on here.
No.
But come on, man. I think this proves Canada is not quantity over quality. We produce quality players. Well, I think this is all... That's the proof right there.
Like, I don't know for sure, but I think it's roughly close. All of the Canadians that play hockey here in Canada, I think it's very comparable to just the state of Minnesota alone. So just let that sink in. So I'm sorry, when you're in the US and in the vast majority of states, your top 3 sports are soccer, basketball, and football. Because Noah talks about soccer all the time, so it's always in the front lobe of my brain. But when we're talking about football, we're talking about NFL, college football, MLB, and the NBA. Those are your top 3 sports. Now, I'm not saying there's not hockey fans in the States, because I know a lot. But when you're a much bigger country, and Canada, for the vast majority of states, for the vast majority of states in America, where hockey is not, number 1 or 2 in your viewership, you're not going to produce nearly as much players as Canada.
Focusing more again on the World Juniors, I mean, obviously there is some controversy with Canada in terms of some of the players picked, some of the ones released. And obviously with the goalies, there's been considerable debate, especially surrounding biggest underdog goalie probably in junior hockey, Taylor Gauthier. I mean, he hasn't even been drafted yet, and I think that this is his chance to shine.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's actually quite criminal that Taylor Gauthier has not been drafted up until this point. 2 straight drafts, and one of the best goaltenders that we've seen really within the Western Hockey League, and I would argue the CHL, to not be drafted, not even for a team to take a flyer on him in the latter rounds of the NHL entry draft is it's a joke. I'm sorry, it's straight up a joke. I mean, we've had the pleasure of watching Taylor Gauthier for the last 3.5 years. And I've talked with people from the organization, and there's no reason off the ice or on the ice to not take Taylor Gauthier. So we have to rule that out as a possibility. And I've had some people say, well, it's his size. Well, you know what his size is right now, Noah?
What?
6'2", 199 pounds.
Yeah,
that's what he's clocked in at the World Junior scale. So also the fact that he's one of the 3 goalies selected to play for Team Canada at the biggest World Junior stage in the world. The fact that he's on this team, that would put, and depending on where he finishes in this tournament, he could potentially be considered a top 3 goaltender in the world for this age category. Just let that sink in for a moment.
Especially if he starts, especially if he's the starter and he plays well.
And so consider this. So when was the last time, at least for Team Canada, for Hockey Canada history, has the potential starting goalie, or at least any goalie on the team, been completely undrafted at 19?
I can't remember.
I was going through this with my dad the other day, and we couldn't really find one, unless there's one that slipped our mind. But I don't think you can find one.
And Taylor Gauthier has amazing potential. Like, and we think that he is a shoe-in for the starter.
Yeah.
I remember when we were preparing for this episode, Tyler said that from what he's seen, like it's pretty much all Gauthier from the coach, so or something like that. So I mean, frankly, like I think that Taylor Gauthier, he deserves to start. He's been in the Hockey Canada program for years.
For a long time.
He's improved every year with the Cougars drastically too. Like these aren't just like improving by like 0.002 like on a save percentage. Like they're actually big leaps. Like he is getting better on a team that many people would say isn't that great. So
well, and another thing too, you got to look back, and it's exactly true. You look back to all the teams that he's been picked to play for over his his time playing hockey. He's always been picked for the top teams. So he's always been considered, a highly respected talent within his age category throughout his progression in hockey. So to me, it's an anomaly. That's all I can say. Like, this is a complete anomaly. So Noah, looking at Team Canada's roster, who are some of the guys that you think we should be looking out for at this year's tournament?
Well, we've already mentioned him, Taylor Gauthier.
outside of Gauthier.
Okay. I think Kirby Dach, because
Absolutely.
I think that he will be the player of the tournament. I really do, because look how well he played for the Blackhawks in the playoffs. Like, he was decent through the season, but he was quite good in the playoffs. And now he's playing against weaker teams. I mean, you could argue weaker players. So, like, I honestly think Kirby Dach is going to light it up. I think he's going to be the player of the tournament, hands down.
Well, and it certainly helps his case that I think he's now maybe almost 6'4", and he's
like, he's a big guy too.
He's literally a man playing amongst boys at this point. And also, like, have you seen that beard? Oh, it's unreal, man. He's growing a pretty sick beard, man.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Who else do you think we should be looking out for here in the tournament?
Probably Cousins for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, pretty much I could see anybody on Canada stepping up. I'd be lying if I said I couldn't see that, because I think the team's just so good. It has so much talent that anybody could just have like again, this is something interesting, and it was in the NHL too, is that teams base their matchups around players. Canada's such a deep team, they could pair up like the lines perfectly for the top six, and then the bottom six in Canada will just light it up. Like, honestly, that's kind of where I sit on this topic. And I know Tyler's going to criticize me for that
no,
opinion. But
I'm actually not. I think you're kind of right on the money there. But I kind of took a bit of a different approach this year, because I know how good a lot of these players are. But there's realistically, outside of Taylor Gauthier, obviously, because I mean, he's always going to be on my radar. But there's two guys that I really wanted to watch for, and I've talked to you about it a little bit, Noah. Quinton Byfield.
Yeah.
And Alex and Newhook. So
yeah, just so you guys know, spoiler alert, Tyler loves Newhook, and he's talked to me about him like 10 times now at least.
Absolutely.
So this could be a while. Might want to get some popcorn.
No. I'm not gonna drag this one up too long. I'll give a short version. So Alex Newhook, he was playing for the Victoria Grizzlies, the BCHL, before going on to play NCAA. He was, saying he was head and shoulders above every other player in that league is a bit of an understatement. I think he was miles ahead of everybody development wise, and some people kind of made the argument that that would hurt his development, but I kind of disagree, because he's just translated that immediately to the NCAA Division I, and he's continued his success there. But ultimately, I think that's kind of why he was a bit of an underdog to make this team, just based on the fact that he took a little bit of a more
Strange path.
Because most of the players that make these teams are from the Canadian Junior Hockey League, the CHL, right? So a lot of these guys are from, some high profile leagues. So I was really interested to see that. And I think Newhook could very easily be one of Canada's best players in this draft. And in this team, I don't think that that's out of the question. And now I think I've kind of said it before, but I'm definitely not nearly as high on Byfield as I think a lot of people are. I think he's a player I want to watch. I'm not rooting for him to not succeed, but I just have my reserves. And I said to Noah that I said Newhook's going to take his spot because at the beginning, in the start of training camp, Byfield was the second line center. And then so now they're actually in real training camp prepping for this Friday.
In his practice lines, wasn't it? He was fourth line center?
Yeah, he was fourth line center and Newhook was second line center. I said to Noah, I called this. So, I mean, obviously
and I said, yes, you did. And I kind of rolled my eyes, if I'm being honest. But yeah. But
this could keep in mind, this could also change heading into, the tournament. So we will see how it plays out. But I want to see if Byfield, because he was pretty underwhelming last year. And people said it's because he's an underage player. You can make that point fine, but also keep in mind, Lafreniere also played before that as an underage player, and he also looked miles ahead in this tournament than Byfield did. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at, where he can, how he can really fit into the Team Canada team this year. He's got his work cut out for him though, because this is such a deep team. So we'll see how that shakes out. But those are the two players that I want to watch for, and I think you guys should also keep tabs on as well heading into this weekend.
So I think that wraps up our World Juniors discussion, and that was great. So why don't you lead us into the interview?
All right. So we're going to transition to our interview with Caleb Wilson. He is the Director of Media Relations for Caribou Hockey. He's a good friend of mine and very well spoken. You're gonna love this interview. So definitely stay tuned for it. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, Caleb.
Thanks for having me out.
So, you worked 2 years for the Prince George Cougars, and now you're currently the Director of Media Relations for Caribou Hockey. How has your experience with the Prince George Cougars helped you prepare you for the role with Caribou Hockey?
I think the biggest thing really is the introduction to Trevor Sprague. With my time with the Cougars, I was an account executive, so I was within the sales team with them. So I was dealing with Trevor on a semi-regular basis, and kind of got to know him a little bit there, more in depth. And when my time with the Cougars was up, Trevor was on the phone with me pretty quick about getting involved with Caribou. And, it was something that I wanted to do, was stay involved in hockey at some degree. And this gave me that opportunity. So, I mean, overall, I think just the introduction to Trevor is really big. You're in the community, so knowing how much this program means to the Prince George community and the development of athletes was, that's kind of where I got involved, was just at the ground level with Trevor, and then kind of got involved more and more over my time.
That's really good. And so, being the Director of Media Relations, what are your responsibilities within that role with Caribou?
My role kind of has expanded from when Trevor and I first started chatting. When I first chatted with him, he wanted me more as to oversee things within the media side of Caribou. The year I started, so last season, we had 6 teams in the program, which really changed things compared to when we just had the major midget, so the U18 AAA team to look after. And that oversight on my part, not knowing that it was going to be 6 teams to kind of supervise, and social media, getting graphics and tweets for our Twitter accounts and Instagram ready, and Facebook pages, making sure I was on top of all of that. Was kind of what I thought I was going to be doing, and still am doing, which is great. But I get to work with a great group of guys. Yourself, you're involved with some of our Twitter pages and some graphics now. And Caden Fanshaw, I've got on doing graphics, because when it comes to graphic stuff, I'm not the guru by any means, but Yeah, overall, I mean, my role is really to just kind of make sure our program is getting exposure, not only at the, the BC MML level, but, getting guys exposed for the draft and, guys that may not be drafted at the bantam level to go get noticed at U16 or U18, excuse me. So, it's more just making sure our program's getting the exposure it needs, both provincially and within our own community.
Definitely. And and pretty soon here, I want to touch in on like just the key parts of promoting the programs to attract scouts and recruiters and people to our program. But before that, how do you feel like within the last 2 years that you've really grown since starting with Caribou and then now to where we're at here at this point?
I think just knowing what my role really is and the importance of what we do as media people. Again, being involved in hockey is something I've always wanted to do. And this is kind of an avenue I'm able to do that. But knowing that your role, or my role, I should say, is just as important as anyone else's, to make sure guys are getting, guys and girls. I mean, we've got the major midget, the Capitals under our belt as well. And I think my role, just in terms of making sure that it's a balance, like there's certainly a balance that needs to be had for the AA players, to the AAA players, to the guys, to the girls, and making sure that we get a lot of exposure at the U15 level and at the women's level. A lot of these girls are hungry to get to that college level, whether it's NCAA or CIS. I mean, they want to pursue hockey past just playing midget hockey. So making sure that those teams get a lot of coverage is really important.
Definitely, yeah, it's a really big part of having a successful program now and being able to really market and showcase the programs and the players come out of the programs. So I guess it's going to tie into the next question here. What are your goals for Caribou hockey?
My goals are really similar to everybody else's. Like at the end of the day, whether it's coming down from Trevor or, coaching staff for U18 all the way to the AA, U15 level. I mean, we're trying to build a program that, showcases talent in the North, keep players at home, or, open up avenues other than academies. I mean, we're an extremely successful program at every level. The girls have won at the provincial level. The U18 team has. I mean, we've hosted Max, not the Max. We've hosted the Telus. We've won the Max. So really, it's the development of young athletes in the North, and our reach goes to the territories and getting those players an opportunity to play the best level they can. Obviously, it's super cool when a player that you personally know, or to an extent know, makes it to the NHL or makes it even to junior A, major junior, the collegiate level, going and playing in Europe. You're seeing these guys and girls play, high level hockey. And at the end of the day, whether your highest level is major midget or your highest level is the NHL, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to get, is the best we can for these kids, throughout their time within Caribou hockey.
It's definitely really cool to see players that came through the program excelling at those higher levels. Like we talked about it last night, Liam Blackburn over in Germany, seeing Peyton Manning have a relatively solid NHL career. In terms of growing the game here in the North, how important is it to have that partnership with the Prince George Cougars?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, the Trevor's worked really hard with them, making that partnership grow. They're extremely big in terms of, we do a lot of the 50-50 stuff with those, with the Cougars games when they have home games and stuff, which is a huge help for us financially. But they're also the coaching staff within the Cougars and the management staff. I mean, they're a great resource for our players. You look at Fisher O'Brien, who's got a shot to play with them this year if the WHL goes with a season. Zach Leslie, another guy listed by them. To have the coaching staff like Jason Smith, Mark Lamb, Taylor Daker's the goalie coach. Steve O'Rourke is working with them still as player development. These guys are all extremely connected at multiple levels of the game, and they're connected and can say, hey, look, there's not a spot for this player, but maybe I can find him a spot with somebody else. The WHL is a big league. So I think just in terms of the connections that those coaches have, both with scouts and other coaching staff and stuff like that, and they can see our guys, the rinks are connected. We play in Kin 1. They're, 50 yards away, really. When you look at the ice surfaces, it's not that far. And so I think that partnership, I got to give a lot of credit to Trevor, building that relationship. Tyler Bruff, head coach of the AAA U18, played for the Cougars. That's big. That's an alumni that's here in Prince George that's working with us, which is super cool. To have that connection there. He's really connected with a lot of guys from the alumni association. So there's opportunity there, and it just grows, and it's really helping grow our program.
Yeah, no, it's definitely really cool to see that, because I know, like, from everything I know about the game, connections are definitely what helps, grow your program. And just to see that, the teams building a community, working together within the North, is definitely something that I really like to see going on. So what do you enjoy most about working for Caribou Hockey?
There's a lot of things that I really enjoy, man. I honestly, like, the coaching staff that we have is a blast. We got a lot of good guys in the group, a lot of alumni that have played in the Caribou system. Getting to know those guys. I got to golf with a lot of those guys this summer. So it's not just, working hockey and being at the rink all the time. Like, during the summer, it's still like, those are your friends, like, throughout the year, which is really cool. But I've always loved being at the rink, as long as I can, far back as I can remember. Being at the rink's always been a big part of my life. And, whether it was the outdoor rinks growing up, my dad built me a rink. I loved going to the rink with him. And now, with COVID, it's tough not being at the rink all the time, getting to see those guys and see players develop. We're watching incredible hockey. Like, you're watching great hockey. It's free entertainment on a Saturday afternoon at 4:00 or a Sunday morning at 10:30. Like, you're getting great quality hockey with a lot of good players that have all made it to a good level. I think working with the media guys is a blast. We got a good crew right now. It's a lot smaller than it was last year. We had quite a few guys that were running camera and willing to do play-by-play. But those are friends. Like, Caden and I have known each other since my time with the Cougars, and having him involved is great. Keeps him in the game. Getting you involved has been a lot of fun. Seeing, the younger generations have this much passion about the media side of things. I get to still connect with one of my best friends, Fraser Rogers, works for the Cougars. He's a huge resource for me, chatting with him all the time about, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But all in all, I think just that feeling of, we're a part of something big. Like, we're trying to build a program of 6 teams that can be successful at every level, and seeing kids flourish in your own town is really cool. And obviously, whether they make pro or not, I got to see it firsthand from, when they're 15 years old to playing AAA U18. It's a pretty cool feeling that we get to help build a program. And, it's something that I enjoy every day. And, you get to see some cool things, meet cool people, go to the Winter Classic. That was a blast. But yeah, overall, every time that you're in the rink, it's a new day, new game. And, you just get to sit there and enjoy it, which is pretty cool.
I've certainly really enjoyed being a part of the team there, and it's been a great experience. I know, like, for me, one of the coolest takeaways is some of the guys that are on the team now, like for Major Midget, like Fisher O'Brien, and Zach Leslie. Like these are guys that they played with my little brother growing up. So these are kids, Scott Cousins. Even I've seen them play since they were Adams initiation, and now they're midget. I think that's just been a really cool experience. So you touched on a little bit about COVID. How has Caribou adapted to the COVID restrictions to try and provide the best opportunity for their players during this pandemic?
Oh man, it's a never-ending battle. I think, when we had to make that announcement last year to the U16 AAA guys that were one of the best teams in that league with unbelievable talent, and they didn't have Price Pete, Zach Leslie, or Nico Majadovic on the roster. Those guys all played up. So we had 3 guys playing up that could have been a huge force in that at that level. But to see the look of disappointment on the guys' faces, having to tell them that we were canceled. I mean, head coach Ryan House and his coaching staff, like hats off to those guys. They handled it so well. We were, in my opinion, and many people's opinion, the best team and the team to beat for that banner and that championship. And from that point on, it was really, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know how training camp was going to pan out. We adapted. We had to submit our how we were going to keep things. Our health and safety plan. We had to change that a couple times. I mean, I was not involved with that. That's Trevor and Jesse Sprague. I mean, hats off to those two for being able to adapt on the fly. And it's still changing. I mean, we got to go from, we're back into whatever phase we're in now. I honestly can't.
Yeah, no, it's
can't
been
remember.
a whirlwind.
I think we're phase 2, but we were in phase 3 where we could compete and we were setting up scrimmages and inter squad games and trying to play other teams. The cohort cup was going on, that got canceled, and how we could change and adjust on the fly throughout COVID. I mean, it's always been our number one priority to keep our players and staff and billet families safe. And I think we've done a really good job of that. The city has been extremely encouraging and really helped a lot, making sure we had what we needed and stuff like that. I mean, we had no idea what was going to happen before Christmas, and we got to stream some games and, see some stuff at home and watch some inter squad. And, now it's back to the drawing board. Like, how do we adjust again with Christmas break, players going home, players coming back, it's never over. Like, it's always an adjustment.
Yeah.
Coaching staff is getting really creative. I mean, Renzo Berra with PGSS has had to be, adapt things, I'm sure, as well. And RJ helping with that class, hockey class at PGSS, they've had to make a lot of changes too. Like, it's not easy what these guys do, changing practice plans and schedules, and we're on this ice now. You can only be here 15 minutes early. You got to get out right away. Like, but as a whole, I would say this group of managers and coaching staff have always been able to adjust and make proper adjustments, and we've abided by whatever regulations have been passed down to us by the PHO. And it's frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is. We'd love, like, all we really want to be doing is get guys and girls back in the rink playing hockey and competing. And I think it's in our nature, human nature, to be competitive and want to succeed. And it's tough, but I mean, I think we're doing a pretty good job making sure that we're getting our program a good foundation.
Absolutely. And so how has COVID impacted your position at Caribou Hockey, if at all?
It's made it harder for sure. Last year was, getting everything up and running was one thing. Had to make some Facebook pages, stuff like that, and really learn the role. And I would say last year around Christmas time, I was fairly comfortable with what my role was. This year with all the regulations and stuff, I mean, you got to be way more creative when it comes to content. I mean, game days was awesome. I mean, your Instagram stories are right in front of you. Your tweets are every time someone scores a goal, you're putting it up. Like, it was easy in that regard. Like, when there's actual games going on, it's so easy to do. But when there's no games, really just inter squad practices or, team building events and stuff like that, that's really the majority of our content.
Yeah.
It's been a learning experience, needing to find other outlets for content. And coaching staff has been really great. Mario Desjardins with the girls team has given us a list of alumni. We've put a graphic together. We've got some stuff coming out for alumni updates with the some female alumni, and just making sure we're getting all the teams content when there's no content readily available is definitely a challenge. But I would say for the most part, once we're back in the rink and able to get back to gameplay and stuff like that, I mean, it's honestly so easy for us to do that. And I know Brendan Paulu and Will Peters, our play-by-play and color duo, love being in the rink. And I love it too, and that's where we enjoy being. So once that's back, it's honestly a cakewalk from there. But right now it's a battle. It's an uphill battle a lot of the time, trying to make sure everybody's getting exposure, but we're managing.
Definitely. So is there a facet of Caribou that you are really trying to showcase?
I would say the biggest thing for us right now is, definitely our U15 AAA program. It's, unfortunately, and, that's a tough one. Kids get offers from other outlets like academies and stuff and leave. So you don't really get to have them a second year, or you don't get them at the U16 level, which sucks. So making sure that we can get U15 AAA coverage, through Prince George Matters. We have a really good relationship with them. Ethan Reddy over with CKPG Sports. He's doing a great job. He's new. Jeremy was the old guy, and Ethan's now in there, and he's connected well. And yeah, those and the women's team, those two teams are really important and really crucial. I think to make sure we're getting them the coverage they need. There's a lot of talented female hockey players in the North, and there has been for a long time. And I mean, this is our second year having them within our system. They were on their own before, and now they're under the Caribou hockey. As you can see in my background, there's all three logos there, and they're great. There's some great talent there, and last year was a blast to watch their home games. They have a great crowd turnout. It's awesome. They get a good crowd in Kid too. It's a good time, and they're a fun group. Coaching staff's great. This year they got Hayden Barra, and he's a hoot, good buddy of mine. But yeah, I think those two, for the most part, in terms of teams, are extremely important. Even, the U18 AA team last year they were a misfit of guys, and they made it, and they were going to provincials, and they were doing really well. And those guys, that's not a program that is something to just brush off because it's AA. There's guys that could play, like, need a gap year where they go play junior B, and potentially get something out of that. So I think that's also an important asset that we have, an outlet that we have to make sure we're covering, because there's a lot of guys there that could play at a higher level, and who knows what happens there. I mean, they're not they're not the high exposure players like that we have in our system, like Scott Cousins with Kelowna, or Nico Majatovic with the T-Birds. Like, these guys are your sometimes your third, fourth line guys, but you never know. You might have a diamond in the rough, and it's up to us to make sure that we get those diamond in the rough some exposure. And it's fun to find those guys and hopefully get them there. And but yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's always our goal for all 6 teams to be getting good exposure. But I would say for sure the U15 and then the U18 female team is the 2 that we really stress on right now.
Definitely. And so we've talked a lot about like the development and the on ice product. Now let's kind of go into more of a off-season topic. How important is it for the players and the program to participate in doing work in the community?
That's an extremely big part of our program. I know Tyler Bruff is a big ambassador of this in terms of he's always got guys readily available for community service, whether it's doing kettles for the Salvation Army. We participated in the toy drive for the Christmas Wish. It's usually the PG Christmas Wish breakfast. But it's anything and everything. Like getting these guys out in the community is extremely important, and not for us to be, in a limelight of, oh, look at us, we're out in the community. It's teaching young men and women the importance of giving back to the community. That's really the goal, or at least that's the way I perceive it. And the PG Wish Breakfast is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I mean, this year alone, with the generosity of our sponsors, there's a handful of them that gave us $500 a team, and each kid gave $20 of their own money. You can see the generosity there, and they all spent $40. And I mean, we spent almost $6,000 towards this outreach.
Yeah.
And just to see, guys, the players enjoy, like, having fun, like getting to shop and, give back to the community and stuff like that. It's building character and showing them that it's not all about hockey. Like at the end of the day, your hockey career can be over at a blink of an eye. And, it's the community that you embrace yourself and dive in head first that's going to be there. I mean, we have an extremely good relationship with a lot of local businesses, and without them, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And I think that we have a good relationship with our partners because of the amount we do in the community and how much we're willing to give back. And I mean, it's big. I love seeing the players do it. They really enjoy doing it. I think there's days it's like, hey, I don't want to do this, but at the end of the day, I think they do get a lot out of it. And I mean, shout out to all the players that we have that are willing to participate in this stuff. I mean, it's a huge learning experience for all of them.
Absolutely. I saw the posts, like pictures from like Canadian Tire and stuff, and they definitely looked like they were enjoying themselves. So it was really cool to see how much, obviously, it means a lot to the, to the people receiving, the awesome stuff here, but then also to just see that the players as well were receiving something themselves, right? That is definitely a humbling experience.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. It is very humbling. There's a lot of people that, this is a tough year. COVID's affected not only, a hockey, this is a privilege for kids to play this game at this level. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and to be able to give back to our own community is always a cool thing. And like you said, it's very humbling. Like even for myself, it's like, to me, it puts a lot of things into perspective very quickly.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's a good way to end this interview. Thank you, Caleb, for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. And I mean, on behalf of Caribou Hockey, keep doing what you guys are doing. And you guys are doing a great job, and I'm excited to see where else you guys can go with your podcast, and we'll see you guys in the new year.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
And that was our interview with Caleb Wilson of Caribou Hockey. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. So I believe our next episode is going to happen after Christmas. So we're going to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Stay tuned for the locker room. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also go subscribe on YouTube. And we hope to see you next week.
Yeah. Bye, guys.